PeopleSoft FSCM Update Image 53 delivers the work management framework, which provides task management and action history reporting for exceptions and specific transactions reported in the My Work section of WorkCenter. It's an optional feature available in supply chain and supplier relationship management, financials, and human capital management. WorkCenters continue to be the primary location where power users perform their daily work. However, current WorkCenters are unable to identify and remove exceptions or issues from the list of transactions when a task within the application is complete. For example, tasks like running a month-end close process or consuming an outstanding cash advance and expenses. Also, a user working on an issue does not have the visibility if someone else is working on the issue. When work management is enabled for an exception and you take action on it, the system automatically populates history tables with as much information as possible and assigns the exception transaction to you. Your organization decides whether to use this optional framework by enabling it for My Work transactions. We're now looking at a database where the work management framework is installed. Let's access the primary configuration page for work management in Enterprise Components and select the Work Management Link IDs page. Use the search field to search for application-specific transactions. When you find the type of transaction where you want to use the work management framework, select the View button. This example displays the Enable Work Management Exception page for outstanding cash advances and expenses. Select the Enable switch to enable the framework for this type of transaction. When you enable the framework, the options in the Action Settings grid become available. These are application actions that are specific to expenses. In this example, there are 3 expenses application actions that you can monitor. You can determine whether each application action performed on an exception should be tracked in history tables and whether a comment can be added when performing that action. The follow-up days setting determines the number of days that the system waits for you to receive the results of an action. In this example, when an employee is notified of their outstanding cash advance, they will get 7 days to resolve the transaction before additional action is taken, such as notifying the employee's manager. Acting on a transaction automatically assigns it to you and removes the transaction from the unassigned view in the WorkCenter. After 7 days, the transaction returns to the unassigned view in the WorkCenter where you can give it further attention. PeopleSoft delivers all work management link IDs disabled. Therefore, you must use this page to determine which FSCM modules and transactions have this functionality. Now, let's look at a WorkCenter where work management is enabled for an exception transaction. When work management is enabled, the WorkCenter displays additional options, such as the View drop-down, to address transactions that have issues. Furthermore, additional actions are added to the application-specific actions. The View option allows you to sort and filter the transactions into 5 different status categories. These options change the grid results to display transactions based on the work management status. The status changes based on the action you take for each transaction. The actions provided by the application are still listed, but additional work management actions are available to address rows that have issues. The work management action options change based on the view. This is an example of the General Ledger WorkCenter, where work management is enabled for incomplete journals. The first 5 action options are provided by the General Ledger application and are always displayed at the top of the list. The later options, 3 in this example, are added by the Work Management Framework. The action options for Work Management Framework change based on the view and always appear at the end of the list. You can perform 3 work management-related actions for the unassigned rows. Use the Assign to Me action to take ownership of the row for further investigation and management. The Mark as Inactive action removes the row from the unassigned view. And you can use the Exception History action for visibility into all prior actions taken on the row by you or any other user. If you select an application action such as Notify Employee or Notify Manager, the system automatically assigns the transaction to you and writes an entry to the task history table as an audit. When you select Notify Employee, the Exception Comments window appears, displaying a default follow-up date and providing an area to enter a comment. The availability of the Exception Comments window is dependent on the settings that you define on the Enable Work Management Exception page. You can change the follow-up date if needed, enter your comment, and select Done. The comment is then sent to the employee in an email notification. When you select the Done button, a confirmation message verifies that the email is sent, and the row disappears from the unassigned view until the follow-up date is reached. This transaction is now listed in the Assigned to Me view. This view allows 3 expenses actions and 3 work management actions. The work management actions are Mark as Inactive, Exception History, and Unassign. If the outstanding cash advance is resolved outside of the system, you can inactivate the row by selecting Mark as Inactive, which removes the row from the Unassigned and Assigned to Me views. Use the Unassign action if you no longer wish to work on or pursue a resolution for the row. This action returns the transaction to the Unassigned view and creates an Exception History entry. Use the Exception History window to view previous actions taken for a transaction. This example indicates that the source was created by the system, which is the result of notifying the employee, which we performed earlier. The Comments field displays the message sent to the employee. You can add manual actions by selecting the plus sign. An example of a manual action is a follow-up phone call to the employee, which you might make before notifying their manager. When adding a row manually, the word Manual displays in the source column. When reviewing outstanding cash advances that are unassigned, you notice that there are 3 rows for the same employee. You remember that this employee may not be an active employee. To verify this, select Open Transactions for Inactive Employees in the left navigation pane. After investigation, you discovered that this employee is no longer with your organization, and you are convinced that the outstanding cash advances are no longer valid. You can now remove the 3 Outstanding Cash Advances rows. Let's return to Outstanding Cash Advances. One option is to mark the 3 outstanding cash advances as inactive, which removes them from the unassigned view. To do this, select the Update Selected Rows button at the top of the grid, which changes the grid and displays a checkbox next to each row. Now you can select multiple rows and select an action to apply to all selected rows. Select Mark as Inactive to remove all 3 rows from unassigned grid results. The system prompts for a comment where you determine why you are inactivating these rows. For this example, you indicate that the total amount of outstanding cash advances was deducted from the employee's final paycheck. When you select Done, the comment is saved in the history tables. Marking the rows as inactive prevents them from being constantly displayed in the unassigned view each time the WorkCenter is accessed. The Work Management Framework provides a powerful tool to streamline how you respond to issues from identification through resolution. By focusing directly on the issues that matter most, users can address tasks effectively, improve accountability, and ensure nothing falls through the cracks. This update marks a significant step towards more efficient and proactive issue resolution. Your organization no longer needs custom code to remove and deal with exception rows that are not valid or had no system-delivered method of removing them. The applications that adopted the Work Management Framework in Update Image 53 are Asset Management, Commitment Control, Contracts, Expenses, Payables, and Project Costing. And Billing, General Ledger, Receivables, and Treasury are the applications that adopted the framework in Update Image 54. More products and pillars plan to adopt this framework in upcoming images. For more information, go to PeopleSoftInfo.com.